Welcome to episode 8 of The Front Row by AVS Forum, brought to you by Martin Logan. Today, we're going to be doing a CEDIA recap, and I'm not going to hold you too long because I know a lot of you are really excited about this episode. And just a heads up, I am not leading today's episode. I'm going to turn that over to Eric as he was able to walk the floor. I was locked in, went out there a week or two early and was building some rooms. So I have experienced a lot of this equipment, so I'll weigh in a little bit, but Eric and the crew, the guests that we have here, were actually able to walk the floor. So I will turn it over to Eric. Again, welcome to episode 8. Today's topic is CEDIA recap. But first, a quick word from our sponsor, Martin Logan.
Bass that hits hard, fits anywhere, and sounds like it belongs. Martin Logan's Dynamo and Abyss series subwoofers deliver high performance and compact elegance with stunning precision and control. Martin Logan, bringing you truth in sound since 1983. Welcome back to The Front Row, brought to you by AVS. We're here with Don from Horizon Home Theater, Ike from EasyHT Tech, and Paul from Brews and Views. We caught these guys at the show, so we were like, you know what? Might as well come on and, let's talk about the show. So how did you guys like the show before we get into everything? Did you enjoy it? Was it a lot of walking?
So I have one word for the show, and that's overwhelming. It is extremely large show. Not as big as CES from what I understand, but I mean, man, just the sheer amount of vendors that are in this place, it was just overwhelming, to be honest with you. It really was.
Yeah.
Was that your first CEDIA?
That was my first CEDIA. Yes.
Oh man. Okay.
But I enjoyed every minute of it, though. It was fantastic. How about you, Ike?
Yeah, I had a great time. I mean, it was typical CEDIA. I think number 4 for me, and I wasn't disappointed.
How did this year compare to other years, Ike, for you?
Man, I think in terms of what was showcased, it's pretty much just about the same, right? There was no new JVC projector like the last time I went, or like some of the things that would make our home theater space kind of popular with the news. But it was just about the same. It's typical CEDIA. I do think this time I took much better time in just interacting with more people and just relating and just building relationships versus previous times when I went there and I was just stuck behind the camera for hours. So it was a little more different. I still spent a lot of time behind the camera, but probably not as much as previous times.
Nice. And Paul, was this your first CEDIA?
Yeah, this is actually my first CEDIA, and yeah, it was busy. I heard it wasn't as populated as other years, but that's good because I could kind of get around and commingle with the vendors and just walk around. But man, there's just so much to see. I mean, we were there for just a couple days, unfortunately, just because of the timing and how things worked out and the planning. But one of the things that I'd missed and didn't realize is there's a lot of like seminars and certificate trainings and stuff like that. And honestly, that's kind of the stuff that I wish I would have taken part in, just to get like whatever the accolades alone, but just mostly to learn from, okay, what are the new standards, what's the new theories and everything on an actual academic level of training versus a lot of things are no matter how academic something is, it's real world is real world, but at least you have a basis if you learn from experts on, hey, this is what this is. Now it may or may not be applicable in your situation, but if you learn all of the sciences and technologies, you then can derive from, experiences in real world and cultivate those all together and make it a more understanding just technology, because there's so much.
Yeah, that's one thing that I missed. You know, I wish I would have went out a couple days earlier, because I believe they started the classes Monday, Tuesday, right?
Mhm.
So,
Some of them, the show seminars started on Wednesday.
yeah, so it was like, man, I missed out on some of that. So when I do go back out, I'm definitely going to attend. That's a great point, Paul, that you make there, because I mean, I did miss out on all that. I was more focused on gear, and meeting people, like Ike
Yeah.
said, you know. So
Yeah, but don't you have to sign up for those in advance?
Yeah, you had to.
Yeah.
There's registers for all of them. Have you gone to any of those, Ryan? Or
I have never had the opportunity to do, because I'm always working.
you're always working? Yeah, I was
Yes.
wondering.
So
Yeah.
I go as a vendor. For anybody that doesn't know, I am an enthusiast, I'm a dealer, and I'm a vendor. So I look at the industry in a very unique lens. But whenever I go to CEDIA, I never get to go walk the floor very much. I do get to see it as I'm putting out fires. When other vendors calls, like I'm having an HDMI problem or I'm having this issue, hey, can you come help us? I do get to see some stuff, and I do get to go see my friends that are out there. So I do get to see some of the new stuff. A lot of times it's either before the show opens or after it closes, because that's really the only time we get available when we're not in front of other dealers or users or whoever. So no, my experience with the show is very different than what you guys typically go through.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
How many booths was MadVR in this year?
18.
Jeez.
Wow.
Wow.
we were in a lot. So I was busy. There was a
Well,
lot going on.
Congrats on the new MadVRs that just came out too, by the way.
It is exciting. The new features and stuff are super awesome. I won't use this as a sales pitch. I would just encourage anybody that is interested in MadVR to just go look at the madvr.com website or look at your vendors that may sell it and check that out.
I'm thinking Ryan's out there working so hard. He's like on the 20th one. Have you heard of Lumigen?
Healthy competition is good, Paul.
He's like, no, come on.
Yeah, he's like, at this point, can you just try something else? So I don't have to go through 40 rooms.
Most of them were pretty easy, and most of them worked without an issue. It was just HDMI in and of itself can be a pain. So you guys have heard us talking with Eric from Future Ready and now James from Chords about HDMI. So everybody knows if you've been current watching the episodes up until this point. So that's mainly my issue with CEDIA, is that's what I'm doing, is dealing with HDMI. A good point.
I'm sure you're excited about the new HDMI that's coming out.
Let's not start that conversation. Okay. We'll see. I've lost all my hair on HDMI 2.1. I may just be dead by the time HDMI 2.2 comes, or it could be the savior and everything works. Who knows?
That would be awesome.
But I'm excited to hear what you guys saw at CEDIA. I think it's always great to see what other people saw and what gets other people excited, because I was just stuck in those big rooms, SR6 and SR7, for the majority of the time. And my view becomes, quite frankly, I get a little jaded because I'm around all of this stuff all the time, right? We're installing it. I was out there since Saturday building these rooms. We were doing this stuff. And so my view is different because I'm in it all the time. So it's always refreshing to hear from people that, aren't quote unquote in it all the time, to be able to see what is actually exciting, because I still love it. It's just you forget what is new and cool because you see the new and cool so earlier before it hits the actual market. So I'm excited to hear what you guys think of the show, especially because so many of you, this is your first time there.
Mm-hmm. I will say I saw an awesome picture of you sitting on two 64-inch subs, if I'm not mistaken,
I
or
did.
laying down on two 64-inch subs.
Yes, I saw the opportunity to paint me like a French model. Okay. And I took that opportunity, and it's still going. Every time I turn on Facebook, there's me. I don't know why it keeps giving me, and the algorithm keeps giving me my own picture. It's like, you want to see yourself again?
So were you shirtless or
That's just in your dreams, okay? We're not doing that at CEDIA.
Oh man, dang.
I figured you were trying to get the GQ going on there.
No.
You know,
Gosh, man, you better not unsubscribe from mine. You're gonna switch over.
so Eric, what excited you about the show that you were there?
So I loved seeing, like, just kind of going from it as an AVS view side of things. You know, I love seeing all the gear, all the different products, all the different demos, and everything being put together. Like, to me, it's crazy how quickly they build the different rooms and how good they actually make them sound within that time frame. And given that it's just a cardboard box that they have to make work, like sometimes they bring in, the room treatments from Italy. I don't think that was there this year, though.
So that's a partnership through that Officina does with Trinnov. There are other manufacturers that do that.
Okay.
But that's just the one that everybody knows. And Officina, Peter and Maurizio do a great job. Trinnov did not do a full booth this year, so that room was not present. That room is actually going to be at the headquarters in France for Trinnov. So that's where that room went.
Okay.
But Trinnov did not have a full-on experience like they traditionally do. The main ones were, and there were other ones on the floor, but the big ones that we were a part of, I say we with MadVR, were SR6 and SR7. We were in other ones, but those were the two big ones.
And those were just basically, I think I said cardboard, which was wrong. Those are basically just wood boxes, right?
No, they're effectively cardboard.
Okay.
It's very thin wood. So how those are constructed is you have very thin wood veneers, and then it's kind of corrugated on the inside, and then the inside is all Owens Corning. I forget what it actually is, but it's like a 1/2 inch, and every surface is covered in it. So every surface is a uniform high frequency absorber, broadband. It's just going to absorb the high frequencies and not care. It's not targeted. It's not any of that. That's just what it's going to do. So these rooms really struggle with high frequencies. They struggle with everything, but historically they've really struggled with high frequencies. So Simplified brought a lot of, they weren't really complex diffusion, but they were just hard surfaces that we could put on a lot of the surfaces in those sound rooms, and they did a decent job. Nice. The sound rooms are always a compromise. It's always how good can we make this? Low frequency goes right through them. And then you have to deal with, in a lot of situations, the room modes that are created by the expo center itself. So you have the walls that sit behind the sound rooms and the ceiling outside of the sound room, like the ceiling of the expo center. So you're getting reflections off of those walls too. So you're looking at your calibrations and stuff, and you're like, what is that? And then you realize it's the external wall of the expo center. Have sound waves come back who knows how long after. So that's just another complexity of things that we have to deal with. But for what they are, for being on an expo floor, they're pretty good. And it's pretty cool to be able to showcase those rooms, especially built from nothing.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to them or you guys that set those rooms up, because, I mean, you got to be starting with a noise floor of like at least 70, right?
It's not great.
It's so, it's not ideal for sure. So kudos to everyone that set up a sound room there and tries to showcase what they have, because I'm sure it's not easy at all.
It's not, but we do it for the love. The vendors that I'm typically associated with, they're as much enthusiasts as they are vendors. So we all love the space, and it's just a lot of fun. But for us, the show is more about seeing all of your friends. So it's a different approach, because we're around the gear all the time. So it's seeing our colleagues, it's seeing our friends from all over the country and all over the world, whereas the attendees are going to see the gear. So it's just you're excited for different reasons about CEDIA.
For sure.
Definitely. Well, should we get into some of these rooms and kind of what was on the showroom floor and all that stuff?
Sure thing. Let's do it.
Did you bring your pictures this time, Don?
So Don's going to share some pictures as well.
I will share some pictures, but Eric's running the show today.
Awesome.
So these are my pictures. So either they're good or they're horrible, but we'll try to make out what we can.
Yeah. Before I'm going to preface, I'm not a photographer. Before I share some of my pictures, so we're just going to go with that. I do live streams. I don't do editing or pictures. So
Before they share some of their pictures from CEDIA, just add some
correct.
context to the whole shit.
There we go. So I
Very
guess
good.
the first thing we could start off with, and this is kind of one of the first rooms that I was in, was the Trinnov room. They didn't have a demo this year or anything, but they did have a new product, which is something we haven't seen in quite a few years. And this is technically a first for them, even though they have said they have done it commercial side, but not residential side, is the new Trinnov Altitude CI. And what the new CI is basically audio over IP. And yeah, it looked pretty amazing. It also brings down the price when you think about it if you're doing like 2-channel or something like that.
Significantly so.
Yes.
I mean, what's the MSRP on an Altitude 32? 42, I think.
Yeah, I think
And-
39, somewhere around there off the
And
top of my
this
head.
one is 26, if I remember right, for 32 channels.
For 32 to 26. And then if you go with an 8, it starts at 11.
Yep. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Now you do need digital amps.
Mhm.
So it's not like you can just drop this into an existing setup. You do
Setup, yeah.
a lot of times it does require from the ground up, but it is super cool.
Yeah, no, I went down. This was the first booth that we went to, also, Eric. So I mean, Chuck gave us a nice tour of the room down there, and had a lot of people talking about the the processor, and I like the fact that it's expandable, right? It starts off at 8 channels, and then you can buy them in pairs after that, right? So it makes it to where you don't have, if you don't need 16 channels, you don't have to spend the money on 16 channels, like you said.
Exactly. And they didn't have any demos or anything. They were kind of showing off their new software as well. So if in case anybody hasn't heard, Trinnov is completely rebuilding their software. So it's not going to be, it's more updated. I think I have pictures of how it looks too. Yeah, so this is how it looks, which is completely different than what it looks like now. So I'm excited for that. Like, you can actually make out the rooms, and it shows kind of the room diagrams, and the target curve is a little bit different. Something that should be rolling out here, I think, shortly. The only thing that they said is you do have to recalibrate, which I know if people have spent money on getting a calibration, they're going to have to probably spend money on again.
It does seem
it's also not a forced update, right? So you don't
Exactly.
You get to do it when you're ready to do it versus being
Exactly.
forced to perform the update, at least for now. Who knows
Yeah.
if that might change.
And
Yeah,
I think it rolls out in waves or something like that. So it shouldn't be like everybody's not going to get it all at once either. So that makes it kind of nice.
Yeah, the UI was very, just extremely intuitive.
Yeah, I got some footage also of them going through it, and it was, to me it seemed, and I've never worked with a Trinnov before, but I have watched videos on it, but it seemed a lot more user friendly for sure.
Yeah.
The
The fact that you could start with a template, or you can start your own. You can start with a template, add or edit. Some of the things that I've seen in this UI made it a lot more comprehensible on what all the processor can do. And because I've always, people ask, oh, do I need a Trinnov? It's like, and my answer, and I don't know that it'll ever change, is like, if you don't know why you need a Trinnov, it means you don't need a Trinnov. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
But if you are an integrator and you have this interface, it just makes it so much easier. People don't understand, like, you can matrix speakers in this interface so much easier. You can just say, okay, left front height, it doesn't have any bass below X, right? And you can just say, hey, I want this speaker, or this speaker to act as the frequencies for this particular speaker as well. You can do that with each individual speaker. And on top of that, some people like different speaker layouts for different codecs, or hey, Atmos, I like just top middles. I don't care about front or rear. Maybe some people do that. DTSX, I like this, I like that. And you can literally set all your speaker parameters, like, hey, whenever this format comes in, this is my speaker layout, make it happen. And boom, it's all automatic for that. So it's very programmable down to the specific user and how they like to hear it. At 2-channel, it's like, oh, I only want these 2 speakers. I want just my 2-channel experience in this scenario type of deal. So, and if you have like, AOIP, like you can program literally, you can get fancy and just say, hey, I have, speaker 31 and 32, they may be some fancy 2-channel, things that, hey, whenever I have 2-channel, just play these 2 speakers that, they may be labeled something that sounds or, is different, but just the way you could literally program it to just play certain speakers. This UI is like, man, it gives you a GUI interface along with it. So it's pretty customizable, I guess, is the best way to say it.
It's a change that's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Well, it adds new features. It just streamlines the entire process and brings their user interface, their GUI, into the present day, because it was so antiquated. And it was still capable. It was just old, is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they've been talking about this for a long time. I'm glad that it's coming. I was disheartened to hear that you had to recalibrate, but I understand that it's a necessary evil given how long the old one was out and things have changed. So it's nice to have. I think it's good for them to have done it. And I'm excited about the CI piece. I think both of them are great.
Definitely. And not only does this software update kind of give you a new GUI, but it also fixes that delay, they say. So everybody always thought, because it was a computer-based system, that delay was just going to always be there, and there would always be that clicking noise, and that I think it's like a 5 or 8 second delay. They said that this new software is actually going to fix that. So I'll be curious to see how it is.
I doubt it'll fix it entirely, because that's a HDMI issue. So I can't say that it'll go away, but it certainly should decrease it.
Speed it up.
Does the clicking really bother that many people?
I think it does. I personally don't mind it. I mean, what do you guys
think? The biggest thing for me when I was in these demo rooms with Trinnov is that, the delay would probably be what keeps me from purchasing the Trinnov, right?
What delay are you referring to? The audio sync?
The audio sync delay.
Audio
correct.
video sync. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a fantastic product, and the fact of the matter is that who can't start the chapter, right, or start the movie and then just rewind it, right? But when you like to do demos and have people over and stuff like that, it's kind of, that I would say that I guess it annoys me a little bit.
Well, hopefully in the newer stuff, because I know you should be able to, because a lot of the times it's like, okay, here's the audio format, here's the resolution, here's the codec, and that, like, you can stream and compile, if they all match, one long demo clip, right, to where it never has to change, even though there might be 5 different movies. But the minute something changes, like, oh, we're going from Atmos to DTSX, right? Oh, we got a re-handshake, right?
Right.
So, but with that, in these devices, is what they can do is have like some sort of, it reads, oh, what's playing? Oh, it's this format, this audio, this codec, this frame rate, etc. And then have a buffer file that matches like all the possibilities. that will just buffer that handshake with that 7-10 second delay and then start actually playing the content. So yeah, you might have to wait 3 seconds, 7 seconds
in the beginning, right?
but when it starts playing, it will play the movie as in
First world problems.
Yeah, right.
Real first world problem.
But it's
Demoing my first world AV system.
And yeah, the last thing that I want to talk about with going back to the CI before we move on to something else is the new mic. Don, I saw in your pictures that you had a picture of the new mic too. So this is a new mic that connects to the CI with a RJ45 connector for power. So
I did not know this.
Yeah. So there's no more battery powered. So,
no more on and off on
exactly.
You're not going to forget to turn it on. You're not going to forget to turn it off. It's
the RJ, that's great. That'll be nice. Is it just any RJ45 like Cat 6 or Cat 6A? I guess we don't know.
Is it PoE plus through the switch, right? What is it?
I don't know.
Probably to give it power. So yeah.
Yeah, I would hope it's PoE, because how else is it going to?
Through the AOIP connection? Shoot, I don't know.
Yeah, I was not aware that I mean, I took a picture of the microphone just because it looks like a space alien type of thing, but you know, I wasn't aware that it was a new microphone either. So, but thanks for bringing that to our attention, Eric.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
On the back here, I just wanted to make a comment. On the back, there are 8 analog channels. That's the minimum channel count that you can start with. And from what I was told by Chuck, these are kind of made to integrate with your subwoofers, these 8 analog channels, because a lot of times you already have plate amps on your subwoofers, right? So these will, the analogs were kept in mind to integrate with your subwoofers. So that's, you know, if you have 8 subwoofers, of course, so which would be great for waveforming.
So then moving on from there, we went over to the Epson booth, which they had the LS9000 projector. They had a demo with a 7.4 polk system. Were you guys able to check out this demo?
No.
So I didn't go into this particular room. I went into the comparison room.
The comparison room.
Yeah, we went into the comparison room.
One downstairs.
With the
So
QL.
this one was pretty cool. It had a 120-inch Stewart screen, and the LS9000 is actually a really good projector. Like I get why some people, you know, hate it for the price, but it's actually a really good projector. Like I had it into, and I was impressed considering the price point. And then moving on from there, so then they had, if you walked across the room, in another room, Epson had a comparison between all the projectors. We're not going to get into too much on that, but we will say that they had like the JVC and the Sony, and what they were pretty much demonstrating was how bright the Epsons were, the new QL7000 and the 3000. And there really was a difference in brightness when it came to it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the 7000 that they showed, and I think that the 7000 was in multiple rooms, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was thoroughly impressed with, you know, the lumen output of this. You know, it was just, you know, pictures were popping off the screen. I've been a JVC fanboy for a long time, and I enjoy my black levels, but I can tell you that seeing this projector made me forget about black levels. So it was to see that HDR pop off of there. And I will say it performed in scenes like this, like outdoor scenes, right? To where it's not like a dark scene. So it performed very, very well in these type of scenes, like outdoor type of scenes. Not to say it didn't perform well in the darker scenes, but if I had the choice, if I was watching, you know, me personally, I would flip back and forth between the two. Right. If I know what type of content I'm actually absorbing. I mean, they did a really good job, and where it really highlighted was the sports, like when they were showing sports in multi-view frames on, like, what was it, 180-inch screen or 160-inch screen there. It looked phenomenal. You know, it really did. Like, what you think about this one?
Yes, I think the biggest selling point for me was the use with ambient light turned on, right? The light in that room was turned on for most of the time. And man, it felt like, the lights were turned off for some of the, the demo tracks. So I think that's a very powerful use case for any of the new lineups, the 3000 or the 7000. It's just the fact that you can watch sports and it doesn't have to be a dark room. I think you might have to go with the very high-end JVCs to be able to accomplish. I have the NC7, which is older. It's not the 700, but I don't think I'll have much of my lights on if I wanted to watch sports, or things like that and just enjoy it. So I think that lumen output is really, really good. And like Don said, if you're watching bright scenes, like, a lot of daylight or just during the day type scenes, type of movies, yeah, it's going to pop. And with the screen size options that you get, especially with the 7000 one, yeah, if I can do 180-inch with that thing, I might trade my black levels with that one. So yeah, I think that there's powerful use case for it, and it's really impressive. I think they have something going.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you guys bring up, is because in a lot of Epson's marketing, like we're looking at it like, oh, we can now get 300 nits on a screen, which is awesome. But in a lot of Epson's marketing, they're also showing the QL 3000 and the 7000 as a projector for a living room. So they're saying you can put this in the living room, which it's bright enough to do it. But like we look at it as a home theater standpoint, like, oh, okay, so we can actually get this brightness now, in a dark room. But other people are looking at it like, hey, this could be a TV replacement without getting, a mini LED wall or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's the market Epson is going for, right? I don't think they're necessarily coming straight for just us in that, niche. They're also going for those who might just want to be able to get a bigger screen in their living room, right? Not dedicated theater and things like that. So I think they have a good sell there until we start getting much bigger TVs for a reasonable price point. I think that there's that market there for them.
Agreed.
Paul, you're a Epson consumer. So what did you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I mean, it's I've never had the situation where I have full light controlled, so just more brightness is always better, right? I mean, Ryan's over here like, oh, that's cute, with him with his Christie. Like, oh yeah, that's cute. I could probably get down to that if I turned it down to 10% brightness on mine.
Technically, the projector doesn't let you go down that low, but
I'll get 25%.
Yeah. But for us normal people, yeah, it was amazing. Like it would. I'm not saying we're at 1,000 nits by any stretch of the imagination, but and then to have a projector be hitting those nit levels with HDR. Now, again, you're still, like even this picture right here, you would almost look and say, oh, I want the black levels, because if you look at the detail of the plane outside of the windshield, you see more detail, right? But on the Epson side, it's a little, you're getting that, it's
the glare is there. Yep.
Well, yeah, it's not, it's just washing out, because a little bit of the detail is washing out in the super brightness, right? But
and I think a lot of that was my camera as well.
Yeah, and that could be that too.
Yeah, because you're shooting on an angle, right? Because it looks like you're more face.
Depends on where you calibrated the.
We should preface which picture was which, right? So we didn't really.
Do we need to? That's
no, you should let them guess. You should let them take a guess.
But the thing is, these are, remember they stated these are out of the box. Hey, this is the recommended settings. So both of them can get better. in their detail. Everybody knows the more you have something calibrated, the less brightness it's going to get.
Yeah, but if you were to go outside at 2 o'clock and the plane was flying above
Yeah.
you, which one looked like real life to you outside at 2 o'clock?
Well, yeah. That's one. Yeah.
I think the important part here is that the industry is moving to a position where people have choice.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. You've got
Exactly.
differentiators now that you have projectors in the same price segments that you're not just taking commercial pieces and putting them into residential, though these projectors are potentially based on commercial pieces. They're not the commercial SKU itself. They look totally different. You have the ability to add a new tool to your toolbox, right? You have the ability to fix some issues like you guys have been talking about with using a projector in a living room in a ambient light situation. Historically, it's been, how can I fix this using a screen, right? But now, and you did have some options, again, with mainly commercial. Now you have decent options, really good options in actuality that we're actually debating on putting into a home theater environment with full light control. And I know a lot of people that have. You have the choice to now support or replace that screen with just the projector and doing more of a neutral screen, or using both depending on the use case. So it's nice that the industry, and this isn't just in projectors, this is in TVs, this is in video walls, this is in AVRs and preamps, this is in video processing. It's nice to have competition that spurs innovation, because when you have only a couple vendors or one vendor that dominates a certain segment, the possibility of there being some type of innovation goes down significantly because they don't have any competition. So I'm really happy that this is happening and that the conversation is taking place of, well, which one's better? And I can tell you that both are better, right? One is you want the brightness and you want the native contrast and you want the tone mapping and you want the answer. You want everything. You just have to decide as a consumer, an integrator, whoever you are, what ticks the most boxes for you. And in this case, is it something like the Epson or is it one of its competitors? And what works in your situation or what works for you subjectively is going to be different for everybody. And I'm just happy that we're at a position where there is now something on the market that gives us 6 or even 10,000 lumens with, and this is the other fantastic part that I don't think a lot of people talk about, with detachable lenses.
Yes.
Like that is big, because the lenses that Epson gives you are heads and tails above everything else in that residential sector.
Yeah, they've had those, and it's not like those lenses.
That's their commercial. That's their commercial line of lenses for many different scenarios
and reasonable price points too.
Oh,
I was gonna say, before this, the Sony was what, 80,000 for if you wanted that type of brightness, and now we're at 30. So while it's still expensive, it's more reasonable than it was.
I think people were asking, well, why aren't you talking about the Sony 380 or whatever? I was like, well, because it's like $100,000.
Well, it's old.
Well, and it's old, but still, it's like, well, it's $100,000. I could buy like 3 of these.
Yeah, and this, I tell you what, I saw the 3000 at an offsite show during CEDIA, and I really believe that's the sweet spot. It 6,000 lumens still. It was fantastic, so to look at that, so it was. I'm like Ryan said, I'm excited about it. I see a use case. I see a reason why you just show it, willy-nilly out of the box, because let's face it, most people aren't going to get a professional calibration, right? So
most people aren't going to change settings, to be
correct. Yeah. So
they're not
I understand them.
They're not even going to Google the
but
recommended settings, let alone. They're just like.
I would have preferred to see it at its best, 100% calibrated versus something else 100% calibrated.
So one of the issues, because I've done a lot of these comparisons before with M-Wave, with things going on in Kansas City, one of the issues you run into with calibrations is you introduce another level of bias. And you have to wonder, Was there a variable? And this has happened at TV shootouts. This has happened at projector shootouts. Was there a mistake that was made that would cause people to favor one over the other? And the reason I think a lot of times they do best out of the box is because you remove that bias. You remove that subjective variable. Was there something that came in?
Well, here's total unrelated. They're already biased because people that like certain brands, or maybe they don't even like it. They just know, hey, I know this. I know the capability of this one because that's the one I have. So if it has a shortcoming, I am going to spend more time finding, hey, whoa, that's not right. This is better than that. So let me figure out why. Where if you're not familiar with it, you might just do the settings. Maybe you did miss something. Maybe you didn't. And you're just like, oh, yeah, okay, that's how it works. And maybe it's you're shortchanging that one because you're not familiar with it. Or, again, you don't have the bias or the familiarity with that device, knowing, hey, it can do better. So there's all kinds of bias in.
Yeah, I'm sure there is, but I mean, look, when you're calibrating these projectors, you're calibrating them to a delta, so there's a standard, right? So some projectors may not be able to get to the full standard, right? And that's what I want to know. Can I get Rec 2020 out of this? Can I get the full? You know what I mean? So you understand
you're not
what I'm saying?
Rec 2020 or really even DCI-P3 out of any residential projector.
Correct. Yeah. No, I understand. I was just using that as an example.
I can't say any. There are some that can do it, especially like the Valerian. I think can do full BT 2020 if I remember correctly. But there's typically always a compromise. In a lot of those situations, the main compromise, if you want everything, is money. So something else, a totally change of topic that I think deserves mentioning about these Epsons, because Don, you mentioned that you run your JVC at, and I'm not picking on JVC, you have this conversation. You run your projector at like 46% laser because it's before the fan kicks in. These Epsons are unbelievably quiet.
Yeah, that I agree with.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
They're like under 30 dB, which is insanely quiet. It could be right next to you, hanging above you, and you wouldn't even know it's on.
That's cool.
Yeah, because the noise floor, a typical noise floor in a room is what, 40?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, yeah, you can't 45. Tell us for yours. You got the Alpha-Chino, but for 35 to 40, 35 to 45 dB, right? I would say somewhere around there, right? As a typical theater noise floor, right? So, if it's starting out underneath of that, that's great, but yeah, I do run my and the reason I run the JVC at that is because even when I crank it up to full laser, I'm not seeing that much brighter, right? So it's not giving me a huge benefit. So I rather not hear the fan noise, and if it's giving me 30, 20 more nits, I'd be very surprised if running it at full laser, if it's giving me that many more nits, so and I don't have it calibrated yet, but I'm sure it'll be different once I get it fully calibrated. I'm waiting for Sammy. Sammy, you got to come down and calibrate it.
That's funny.
So, I mean, I want to put one in the house. Let's just put it that way. That's how much I enjoyed it. And seeing this, and then going into the other sound rooms with the super high-end projectors, there's definitely a bang for the buck on that Epson for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. And it also runs on 120 volt too, so you don't have to worry about that either.
That's awesome too. Yeah.
So moving on from there was the SVS booth, and they had their demo going in their stack of subwoofers, and then they had they had either a SB or a PB17 kind of cracked open so you can see the insides, which I thought was pretty cool. Did any of you guys do the SVS demo?
For me, I looked at the size of those drivers and the sub, and I'm like, why do people want bigger subwoofers? Just look at that thing.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm sealed.
And I'm like,
that's just too big, man. It's like, I love it. It's cool. It's awesome. But
there's somebody that's sitting right there in their house, and they have 10 of these things, man. It's like,
Well, we know somebody that's got what?
Why do I keep getting picked on?
No, but at least-
again, Ryan's over here like, oh yeah, that's cute.
no, but he has just one, right? It's just one big one at least. But
Because the
yeah.
smallest sub in that theater is 21 inches doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I
You could fit 20 of these in one of his subwoofer enclosures.
So I do
But
like
they're
the direction
hidden, right?
they're going.
Nobody sees those ones.
I do like
that.
the direction they're going. I think the bigger cabinets, I mean, you have to make we talked about compromises with the Epsons. You do have to make a compromise here. You're chasing output. So you're trading your sealed with the more relaxed roll off, but less output for the ported, which is going to have a more aggressive roll off, but more output. So with the ported, you're just the other compromise is dimensions go up. You need more space, but you're gaining more output. So you have to figure out and ask yourself, what tool do I need to use to overcome X problem in my theater? And if you got room for a ported, a lot of times that's a great tool to have. If you're going to run more subs, sealed's usually a great way to go because all around they're really good with the exception of output. I would say I'm not really going to notice a difference for fidelity, like clarity or anything like that between the two. Maybe when you get down to port tune, but it all comes down to what tool do I need? And if this solves that problem by you pulling it out of the toolbox, I think that's great. I think they represent a great price for performance, though they are getting more expensive. I would like them to take it easy. I know the tariffs are rough. Take it easy on the price increases. But I do appreciate that they are getting bigger. You do have smaller options underneath them. So the jump from 16 to 17 inches is great. I do like that. I'd like them to have bigger options. I mean, you've got a 33 coming from RBH. You've got Ascendo with their 33s, the 21s, the 64, the 100. You've got the Deus Invictus that just came out. You're seeing this push towards more and more infrasonics. And I think it would be great to see SVS move to like a 21 or 24 or hell, even a 32, though I do doubt that they're going to do that because I think their bread and butter clientele is in that, I'm trying to think about how I can phrase this, is in the market where they're not going to, as you guys were talking about, put an enormous sub in the room. Right. Like there's only so far you can go.
I could see them doing like dual opposing.
Like dual, yeah, that is becoming more and more.
That's where I think their clientele would.
But then your cabinet size goes up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing ported.
Not as big as like a 21 to still get a more improved output. You would need to make it 3 or 4 times larger than this, where if you did even dual sealed, you could do and make it smaller and get a lot more output on it. But then you're talking a lot of power and all that stuff.
I mean, look, I've been ever since they've came out with the Evolution. I mean, those speakers are just sexy, man. I love the way they look. I love the way they slant towards you. You know, aesthetics is a big thing, especially when you're dealing with wife factor, right? You know, Ike, I think you have a story about this. You know, that
I have
on our show.
Yeah, I have the Titans, right? I'm reviewing the Titans, and I mean, my wife has never been a fan of having speakers downstairs in the living room. She's like, you can do everything you want to do upstairs. And I got the Titans in for review, and she was like, can I keep this one downstairs? I was like, oh, wow, okay. And then she goes downstairs and she's like, oh, I don't think it's going to match the fireplace. And guess what she did? She swapped out. She bought a new fireplace.
Just a match.
She literally changed out the fireplace just so that I can have the Titans downstairs. And when I was leaving for CEDIA, she's like, don't forget to tell the SVS guys that, you know, I would like to keep this speaker. So I had to tell Nick that. And it, you know, so I think that can play, you know, it probably would have been any other speaker. I wouldn't have the same outcome. even though now it might end up costing me some money, but it's wow factor can be really, can be really important when it comes to just designing speakers and how they look.
Yeah.
So
A little bit
Yeah,
of
I
curve,
think,
a little bit of curve in the right spot makes a huge difference.
and I
Yeah.
think, I think these speakers, price for performance are phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they do a really, really good job. We spoke about other shows that we've attended already, but I mean, I heard them first at another show, and I mean, they were just, SVS just blew me away with I think they had the room, the total cost of the room was like $6,000-7,000
Yep.
for the room, and I mean, they were blowing circuit breakers, so yeah, I mean, I'm impressed with SVS for sure.
Yeah.
Did they show anything new?
I don't recall
No.
them having anything new for this.
No.
They didn't. I talked to Nick, and he said there might be something new at CES. So
Yeah.
Okay.
They have something coming on early next year, but
yeah, nothing new for CEDIA though. And then just kind of walking around, I walked to this was the Barco booth. They had on the outside, they had their 165-inch TruePix Bifrost. They look good, and then on the other side was the 171-inch Runar 4K screen. I think that one had a 0.9 pixel pitch too. This one looked a little bit better than the last one, I thought. Did you guys walk by these by any chance? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I like to see that in like a dark room or something with, when they don't have super bright lights, just kind of beating down on it.
No, I mean, I tell you what stole the show for me on this one. I'm not saying anything bad about Barco, but that sound bar underneath of there,
Oh, I didn't even hear that.
the Steinway, the Lyngdorf.
the Steinway Lyngdorf sound bar. Boy, yeah, that thing is sexy. It's
their
it's
booth-
a $40,000 sound bar.
Their booth at ISE, if I remember correctly, had a gold, for no reason, had a gold safe.
That's pretty fancy.
So I'm curious what you guys think for video walls. How soon do you think they will become mainstream?
I don't know.
What's your definition of mainstream?
Where the average consumer, where you might walk into somewhere randomly and just see one in somebody's.
I don't know that
living
they'll
room.
ever be mainstream.
Yeah, I don't know either, because I mean, you got to remember, and Don, I didn't believe when he said it. You got a 98-inch TV for $1,600 right now that you can buy all day long. This is huge. It's way bigger, and you're talking minimum. Yeah, I don't know, what is it?
Well, I mean, look, you got to run probably for this wall. You probably have to run 6 power outlets, right?
Yeah.
You probably got to run, multiple Cat 5 in drops or Cat 6 drops. They're not using Cat 5 anymore.
But that's not going to be the norm. Is never going to be, hey, I have to buy a product. You don't buy a $30,000 car and then pay, $3,500 for it to be delivered. You just, it's like, wait, what? I'll pick it up. Nobody's doing that.
I think it will become a little bit more, you'll see it a lot more in other people's houses. I would say later than sooner, but I mean, eventually the somebody's going to come out with a $30,000 version of this, right? That you're going to be able to put 160-inch or 150-inch screen, and then you're going to have the choice. Do I go with a projector or do I go with one of these?
Well, yeah, but that's the question. What's going to be? Because in the end, right? Because you end up getting the technology, right? And then the complexity in the technology, and whether or not you have to have like, oh, I have to have 10 times the power versus, a projector, if you could get one, if I install one 220-volt outlet and I can get 500 nits, and basically I can do a wall in mid daylight that's bigger than any room I have, Well, that would probably steal the show versus, well, okay, you want it to fill up that whole wall. Well, you're going to have 22 power outlets. It's going to cost you $150,000 to install. So, you got to, that's what's going to determine.
No, I definitely understand that for sure.
Moves,
Yeah.
It's
You're
still-
a dealer, right? So are you getting more people asking for these?
No. These are, so your walls are going into very, very high-end projects. And the reason I said I don't know that they're going to catch on is because they're very complicated to install.
Oh, yeah.
TVs, the single panel stuff, I think they're getting bigger. They're very easy to install. They're cheap to install, and they're easy to replace. What I said when these things first started coming out, when people started getting onto them, and I do love the technology. I think there is a use case for them for a dedicated theater, maybe, or sure. But you're married to a video wall. You can data projector, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to replace. A video wall, it requires dedicated implementation. You've got installation behind it. You've got all kinds of stuff to make it function, and rightly so. They're very complicated devices in order to run. They take huge amounts of power, but the advantage to all of this is they're able to do things that the projectors can't, right? The light output, the contrast in a lot of situations. There are a lot of them that don't have great of either, but there are things that these video walls can do, like the Bifrost and the Christie and stuff, that you're hard pressed to ask of a projector. I mean, look at what Samsung's doing with Onyx in some of their commercial displays. Look at what's going on with the Sphere in Vegas. I mean, that's effectively an enormous video wall, though very expensive. But the things that you can do there, you could really never even dream of with projection on that scale. You could do domes, but not to that scale. Yeah. So there's a lot of really cool things. We talked about Epson doing things in living rooms. I mean, video walls, you can put them outside. You can do all kinds of stuff with them. So the flexibility is enormous. I just think it's still far too complicated for Joe Schmo to approach a video wall. Yeah. Yep. TVs, there is some great stuff, and I think the video wall stuff is driving innovation on the TVs. I think to a big extent. So one thing I think we're going to run into though on TVs is we're going to reach a point where the TVs are too big to fit into certain applications, like through doorways, through this stuff. So then it may become, can you split apart TVs? But then you've got to figure out, how can I make this easily installable? Yeah. Because you can see this here, and this is a problem. This is not an issue with Barco. This is an issue specific with Barco. This is an issue specifically with all video walls, is lining up the seams. And us at CEDIA and ISE and these big shows, the installers are rushed, so you can make it better. But the professional installers struggle with seams. Now imagine asking Joe Schmo, the consumer, to install one of these.
Or a dealer, that don't do it too much.
The complications that arise from these, we're not to a point yet where it's easy enough to install these that it makes sense. The cost may come down, but the simplicity for install has to increase to a point where anybody can do it, like installing a piece of IKEA furniture. Then it becomes mainstream. Yep.
That's true. Yeah. Yep. I agree. But
very cool. I love what Barco's doing. The Bifrost is great.
Yep.
I think the coolest thing though of their demo was the Heimdall. Whatever.
Yeah. All their projectors and stuff are named after, is it Norse gods? You got the Heimdall, the Nord, the Loki, all that stuff. Nerthus. So I think they're all Norse mythology. I think chat's going to correct me. I know they are. But the Heimdall's awesome because it takes what we value with the Epson and puts it into more of a commercial application, which this isn't commercial, it's residential, but it scales it up. You don't have quite as much brightness. The Heimdall Plus, I think, is 7,000 lumens.
Yeah, I think
somewhere in there,
somewhere between there.
But you do get full BT 2020 if I remember correctly. Okay. And just like the Epson, this thing is stupid quiet. I mean, unbelievably quiet. You don't even know it's on when it's right next to you.
Wow. The demo said about 32 dB, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heimdall Plus is 6,000.
All right.
But the Heimdall's awesome. I love the interchangeable lenses. Stupid quiet.
This is new too, right? The
Brand
Heimdall's
new.
fairly new. Yeah.
Brand new. They're just now starting to roll them out.
They
And
have
it's
the
a very
Freya-
limited
they have-
deployment. There
they
were
have
several of
Freya,
them.
too.
There were several of them at the show, but it is a brand new platform for them. It is the first projector in residential. There may have been some commercial ones for them that is HDMI 2.1.
Yeah.
So it does have that as well. It's a great step for them. I really like it. I also like the upgradability.
Yeah, I think there's like 7 different lens options on these as well. So sort of like the Epson.
Yeah. There's a
What are the
I
lens
love the
costs?
modular lenses. I love the upgradability. It's a platform that can stay with you. It's quiet. It's great.
Man, they even have the Freya Plus, which is Odin's wife. I like that. Yeah, you're correct with the Norse stuff. 13,500 lumens. That is madness.
Don't doubt me. No doubting.
And it throws a clean picture too. They were only playing, at least for this demo that when I went into it, they were only playing animated movies. But it looked, I mean, the colors just popped and it was such a clean picture.
So I think the reason they do that is because it really highlights the sharpness of the display. Barcos do very, very well with the sharpness with their laser arrays. So I really think that the reason they're doing that is to showcase how sharp these things can be. Because a lot of the animated content, you're not dealing with noise grain, you're not dealing with any of that. It's just a nice, clean image, and they do a fantastic job. I remember seeing Sonic 3 on it at ISE. I didn't get to see it this year, but it was great. Well, I guess I did. There was one in Sound Room 6, so I saw it a lot. But they're great projectors.
Yeah. Hell of a projector. And that was the
So-
room.
I was going to ask, what room was that in?
It was in their booth. So
Okay.
like Ryan said, I know there was like 3 or 4 floating around. So I think they were in multiple rooms. They might have been in a sound room if I'm not mistaken, but this one was in their booth. They kind of built like a little demo room.
I see.
And they had Meridian speakers, but they were having issues with the processor. I don't remember exactly what. So they kind of were like, just look at the picture quality.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the press release for these. There were Barcos in several of the rooms, like you mentioned, but it didn't list SR6. That was it doesn't list which projector it actually was. Just says Barco, so I was just wondering.
And then moving on from there, the next booth that I walked by was the Kaleidescape booth. They had all different systems actually connected to different Sony TVs around the Kaleidescape booth, and they were showing off their new AI software, which was pretty cool. It's like ChatGPT, but it's pretty neat if you don't want to if you don't know what movie to watch.
Can you explain that for everybody? Because I didn't get any time to go experience that, and I'm sure the people at home have ChatGPT for Kaleidescape. What is that?
So it's basically a AI language that picks up all the movies in the Kaleidescape movie store. So you can ask it like, I want to watch a movie that has Hans Zimmer, doing the score, and it will automatically pick it up and then kind of list the different movies. So you can.
Now, are these for movies that you already own, or is this work for the store as well?
This works for the store as
I think
well.
it's for the store. Yeah,
Yeah, it's the whole library.
the whole library.
That's
You
nice.
can use it as a search feature basically, and then just probe for information on movies and things like that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And it works pretty well. It only gives you, I think, 4 or 5 options, but they said that they were going to continue to add, and you can ask it again, like, give me more options, and it will give you more options as well.
Pretty cool.
They also had a comparison, which did you see the comparison where they had I forget the models, basically the 1080p HDR, the same platform that's 4K HDR, and the V.
So you have the M, the E, and the V.
Yeah, there you go. EVM.
I didn't see that comparison.
It sounds like a friggin' emo band or something. The EVM comparison, yes. And they were challenging people to pick out which one was which.
Oh,
Yeah,
did they
I
say
saw it, but I didn't get to do it. I didn't get to do the challenge.
Challenge.
Yeah.
So were you able to decipher them?
If you get close enough, you can. And that's what I've always said. I was like, yeah, that's just science. That's just how your eyeballs work, man. Because, but that's a whole nother topic. But they even had a comparison on that. They were a lot of people, and a lot of what people see is the range or dynamic range of the colors. So, and that's what perceivably makes everything, oh, wow, this is much better, right? Pixels, that's all perspective on how close you get. Once you get to a certain distance, that's why 8K hasn't kicked off. That's why not every household in America has a 8K TV right now. It's just like we've already expanded the resolution capabilities.
Well, besides the fact that there's no content for it.
It doesn't matter. 4K came out, there was no content for first 5 years. And then the people were like, oh, wow. So, there's that one movie that I love. And they bought it. But now, we're getting to a point to where it's like, yeah, you got to either have a mega large screen, which there's a place for everything, right? I mean, if you're talking, a 200-inch screen in your house, and you're like 10 feet away, well, yeah, sure, you're going to want every pixel you can, but then you're like, I'm getting dizzy, or, depends on if you're that person. But yeah, they had that comparison, basically.
That's cool. I didn't see that. It's a phenomenal product. I enjoy the convenience of it, and that's what I like the most about it.
I love the banter of it. But it was funny. I was like, oh, they got their own booth comparing. That's funny.
How big of a display was it on, Paul?
Huh?
How big of a display was the comparison on?
Oh, it was like a 65.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like a mega large. Yeah, because you were like right there, like looking at them. So it wasn't like they had 200-inch screens on all of them. So
one thing I wish they would have done is, for the Strat, for the V, for the M, for the E, I don't understand why they had to downscale the video
The
wall.
UI.
Yeah. I wish they'd at least kept that 4K.
yeah.
But they obviously got their reasons, right? So when you add a Terra server to the V, it doesn't change it, right? I didn't think it did.
Still 1080p.
Yeah.
I think it's a limitation of the chip or something
It
like
is.
that.
Because they actually had to change the encoding for a lot of their 1080p stuff. I'm not sure why that happened, or why it was done. It's just how the new players are.
Yeah. Because I don't think I need Dolby Vision, so I may wind up just getting a C when I get my Terra server. So, because I have the S, so I may wind up getting the older
Well,
C.
you gotta wait for the S2 so you can get the Dolby Vision 2.
Yeah, that's true.
That's gonna be a long time from now.
I don't think the S is ever coming back. It is gone.
No, it's gone for sure.
Before we go any further, just a quick word from our sponsor, Martin Logan.
This episode is brought to you by the Martin Logan Dynamo and Abyss series subwoofers. Packed with high output, high precision aluminum cone woofers, powerful amplification, and ultra precise DSP, these subwoofers deliver deep controlled bass. They're built to perform and designed to fit seamlessly into any space. Martin Logan, bringing you truth in sound since 1983. And welcome back to the AVS front row. Kind of moving along with the different booths. Next one up for me was the JBL Harman booth. The biggest kind of trend that I saw at CEDIA this year was hiding speakers behind drywall. Everything was about like kind of the living space and hiding it with like the frame TVs and all of that, and we'll touch on that when we get to the Sony booth as well. But a lot of booths had the speakers behind the drywall, and they actually sounded pretty good considering what they were. Kind of walking around the JBL booth, they had that was the inside of the speaker that goes behind the drywall, and then they had their JBL stage section. Did you guys hear that? demo by any chance?
Yeah, so I was able to partake in that. I think these are the new lineup that they came out with last year, right? They just came out with those last year. I mean, yeah, I was impressed. I was impressed by them. They definitely filled the room with, it wasn't a extremely large room that they had there, but I definitely was impressed with them for sure.
The JBL stage is kind of like their entry level model. They're for people who are just stepping into speakers from like a soundbar or something like that, and I think they sound really good for the price.
I think the invisible stuff is a great thing for the industry. Sure, it's not the greatest fidelically, but it opens a lot of doors for, and I think this is where we were going with the invisible stuff, for aesthetics and more options for installations.
Yes.
That you wouldn't normally have, that speakers are not approachable at all for. And it's kind of baffling to think about how they're doing it, because you're effectively mudding over where the speaker is. And there's a bunch of companies that are doing this. JBL is not the only one, but it provides a lot more flexibility in the install for, again, where speakers would never have been able to be historically. And it's still, though not the greatest, much better than the TV or display speakers are ever going to be.
Agreed. I was trying to pull up. Paradigm had the same thing in their booth with, they call them invisibles.
Mm-hmm.
And this demo actually sounded pretty good. They had 4 subs in the different corners, and they had the speakers hidden as well. And they threw in some Atmos speakers at first, but they said that they had them off because they didn't like how it sounded and they didn't really need them. And it sounded really good. Like they had, I think, 85-inch TV, and they played some demos, and it sounded really good considering that the speaker is hidden in behind drywall.
Yeah, and I mean, Ryan probably knows this better, right? I would like to think that many of the high-end award-winning theaters tend to have hidden speakers, right? And many of
Not
them,
like this.
Yeah, not mudded over like
yeah, not modded.
Yeah, right. But
No,
yes,
but-
they are hidden for sure.
No, but the point that I'm making is, right, if many of these high-end home theaters are built with speakers hidden, there's probably a tendency for the technology to continue to go in that direction of keeping the speakers away from, from the eyes, I guess.
So we'll take it one step further. Since you went to another booth, Lyngdorf, they had another company that they partnered with there. And basically, they took a marble slab, because when you go into these high-end homes, that's all you see, right? You see the marble slabs on the walls, the slotted wood, stuff like that. Well, they actually took the marble slab and they put speakers inside or actuators to make the marble slab become the speaker, which was very, very interesting. And then on top of that, they had put a TV inside of the marble slab, right? So the last thing you want to do is pay $50,000 for a marble slab and then put a TV over top of it, right? So what they did was they cut out the hole for the TV, and then they have multiple cameras to measure the daylight, like literally pin-sized cameras to measure the daylight and the angle of the light and everything else. So what they start off with is a high-res, super high-res picture of this marble slab, and then they take the computing power of something to measure which way the light's coming from and everything else, and it makes the TV display the cutout portion of the marble.
Yep.
And it looks spot on. I mean, it was hard pressed to tell that from a distance that there was an actual cutout there. So we're talking about invisible, right? So that's the way that this is going. They talked about how people don't want to see stuff like this on their yachts and then their $1 million homes. They don't want to see TVs and speakers and everything else like that. So hey, kudos to these guys for coming out with solutions for that.
Yeah, when the TV is off, right, you basically just staring at your apples.
Hence the reason for the art, right? The frame TVs and everything else that came out, because you want to see something other than just black, right? Or sitting there.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. It was definitely interesting. I don't know if you got to, we'll talk about that later at the, I don't know if I have any pictures of that, but it was very interesting for sure. Definitely a niche high end type of ordeal that you're dealing with there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and in the case of these, like they're two-way speakers, and they play down, like the 6-inch plays down to 70 hertz, and I think they have or 6.5-inch, and then they have an 8-inch that will play down to 45 hertz. So, see how they come out.
For sure.
But moving back to the JBL Harman booth, they had their Arcam series, and they released a couple new ones as well, and they updated it with the display, which was pretty neat. And then they had their JBL synthesis processors on display. They came out with one recently, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think like a year or so back, maybe. I know it was running neck and neck there with Arc Genesis. They were running. They were competing with them for a while, and it just seemed to. A lot of people started going with the Arc one, but I mean, from what I understand, it was a great processor. The JBL synthesis.
You're referring to the Anthem?
Yeah, the Anthem. Yes, correct. Yeah.
The demo they had they had one of these running their JBL synthesis line in their demo, and it sounded good.
Yep. Yeah, I know. One of our regulars on our show, he swears by the JBL line. So, yep.
Nice. Can't go wrong with that. And then, like what we were saying with, with now that Samsung owns Harman, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing when we were talking about hiding the speakers. We have the frame TV, and they even have these are speaker frames basically where you can add, I think, multiples of them and play Bluetooth.
So if you don't mind, I'll share the next level frame. It shows like a little frame on the outside of that.
Yeah, I mean you can tell still. It's just they just make it look more, aesthetically pleasing than just a bunch of speakers.
Yeah, so you can see the next level. They had an array that went around, so you can choose how you want it to, put the speakers, and this is what the frame looks like on the outside.
So how many speakers are in that frame?
So you can get different orientations. As you see an LCR, you can do heights, LCR plus heights, and then you can just do stereo left and right.
Yeah, and obviously the bigger the TV, probably the more speakers you can,
You can fit, yeah.
And also the size of the room.
So
how close are you
talking about hiding speakers again, right? So making it, a little bit more, wife acceptance factor for this, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's basically, it makes it look like the TV is put into a picture, and that's not even doing it justice compared to like they have like art like just on the left, right? Like they could even do that even better on that, and they had like a piece of art that they would show in their frame or in the picture that just made it look like it was that's a fancy piece of art that you paid $1 million for that you're hanging on the wall. So
yeah, and they have plenty of color options, so you can choose the design, what it looks like.
So yeah, you can see the different orientations that you can choose, which I thought was very cool. The bigger the TV, the more you're going to go with a left center, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you have a 98-inch TV, you could probably do heights.
For sure.
It's like, whoa, wait.
So yeah, I thought that was interesting too. Since we're on the same, invisible type of lineup there.
Yeah, I did not get to see the JBL room. That's the one that we were hoping to see. The place closed down. So
we closed the place down.
Every night. Yeah, every night we were there till 7, and then the guards are coming around like, all right, you guys gotta go. Like, oh, okay. So
yeah.
And then moving on from there, this was one of my favorite booths, was the Priscilla booth. On the outside they had their new lineup, so they have a new lineup of subs, and it's gonna transfer over to the speakers as well. And they had the 21-inch and the 24-inch out there, but you could just see how skinny those are. And I've heard these subs. I've heard Priscilla subs before, and they sound really good.
Did anybody get to see the P12? That thing was hiding throughout. I don't think they showed it. It was just sitting there, but it was covered.
Yeah, it was covered, I think, for most of the show.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
covered for most of the show for sure.
I kept looking like it, but I didn't want to ask for them to open it because I figured they probably didn't want to show it. But I'm like, why put it there if you don't want to show it?
That's true. And then
Yeah, no,
inside, oh, go ahead.
I was impressed with the how slender, you said the form factor of these subs were. On the actual wall, they had the dimensions of the subs.
Yeah, they had the dimensions.
I couldn't believe how narrow they were for this size of a sub.
Which was pretty crazy. And then inside the booth, they had an even crazier setup. So it was a 7.1.4 setup, and they were using P5 speakers for the surrounds and P6 28s placed above a LED screen.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was talking to Chuck about it, I was kind of asking about the screen, and it sounds like Priscilla is coming out. They're making their own LED wall, which is pretty cool. It was a 0.7 pixel pitch, and it looked really good. Like, they were showing Ambulance and the Hans Zimmer concert, and it looked really good, and obviously it sounded really good too.
Yeah, no, it was definitely protruding some sound out onto the sound floor for sure.
Yeah, I was just taking a look. I think that P24 is like 11.81 inch deep.
Wow,
That's how slender those things are, man. I think the 24.
Yeah,
I think
I
that
have
was
some
the
pictures on that.
24. Yeah.
Yeah, you could do a whole wall of those.
Yep. The 24 is
So, yeah.
15 inch.
15 inch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the 24. And then the 21 is 11 inch.
That's thin.
Yeah.
Now those
Yeah,
are not
11 inches.
sonic by any means, but as
No.
like theater and like impact. I mean, gosh.
I think they said rolling off around 21 hertz, 20 hertz, somewhere around there.
And that was like the -3, right?
Mhm.
Like they weren't like -10. It's like, oh, I go down to 15 hertz. What, -10? What? No. Since they're from Pro, they do Pro audio. They haven't figured out how to skew all their numbers.
So, do you have a picture of their aimable speaker that they just came out with?
I don't. Do you?
Yeah, I can show you that too. Let me go through some of these pictures here. So that's just showing the subwoofers again.
Yeah, the aimable speaker was pretty cool. Such a simplistic, like, oh yeah, why don't everybody do that? Like, it's such a simple idea, a simple concept, and works.
So this is the depth of the aimable speaker, which is like next to nothing. But this, you unscrew this and it rotates, and supposedly under this portion right here, there's another screw hole. So you can literally just,
Yeah, it's more. It's not just 40. It's
yeah,
like
I apologize.
or something like that. Yeah, you can. It's not just a 45 degree. It's basically, I think their concept was, hey, aesthetically, you want a lot of your service mount speakers to be in line, right? You don't want that box to like be tilted because your eye goes to those reflections, or that eye where if everything's just straight line, but you can, rotate these at 21 degrees at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It gets you enough. And it's just the mounting. There's no magic to it. It's just like, hey, you have to mount this at the angle where you want it pointed,
Yeah, no, it definitely impressed me with how I like how it's it rotates the whole entire driver, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly. It's a simplistic design that's just like, oh yeah, and everything will just be straight in line, but the speaker will be, aimed right at the main listening position, or at a position to where the dispersion of the speaker can cover all your seating positions, right? I mean, that's basically what it is.
Yeah, I mean, look how thin that is too. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, geez.
It seems like to me like the on-wall solution is growing too. I know we talked about the invisible speakers growing, but like the on-wall solutions seem to be growing more and more also.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think people are realizing that aesthetic is as much of an importance as performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As many people as I've had over at my place, nobody gives a shit about the equipment, how many watts, how loud it gets, how flat my frequency response. Nobody cares. But
Yeah.
if they're having a good time, and yeah, anything that's dazzling, LEDs and the lights, and you know the seating, they're like, oh wow, oh man, this is cool. Everything else they don't care about.
Yeah,
Don't care.
that's it. Nobody cares that he went down to 5 hertz, except they are part of the niche community, right?
Well,
Or
that's not what I meant, but you're right. What I meant was the aesthetic and things disappearing is as much of trying to get to AV
Yeah.
Nirvana as having a good
Yep. Even if you go down to
performing
5
system.
hertz.
Even if you go down to 5 hertz, make
not
it look good,
knowing-
right?
So when things disappear and you're not pulled out of an immersive experience and you're just able to get sucked into the media because you don't
Yeah.
see that you're in
See
a
every-
theater,
Yeah,
it allows you to transcend from the room into whatever content you're trying to experience, which
in reality, it's
having things hidden is, as much as we all say, oh, it's the wife approval factor because we all don't care if things are in the room. The more I've done this, the more I realize the aesthetic and usability of a room are just as important as its capability and
No,
performance.
absolutely. I changed my whole design. I was gonna hang my speakers on the wall, and just on brackets, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to see any speakers. I don't want to be distracted by anything reflecting. I don't want to, I don't want to see them. So changed the whole design of my theater, prior to even building it. I was like, nope, I don't want to see them. So yeah,
when the cops get called on you, like for going down to 5 hertz at 180 dB. Like, what are you talking about? Come in, check it out.
I think there may be
You don't even see nothing. You're just like, what? Like, oh yeah, they must be mistaken. there's nothing in here. It's all hidden. You never even see it.
So this was probably one of the coolest displays. Was Sony was celebrating their 60 years of receivers. So they had, receivers starting from the 1960s when they first released them all the way up to today. And according to the Sony rep, they all still work. They were all on. And the way they were able to add them in, I believe his buddy collects them. Was able to have his buddy let him borrow it for a couple of days and then put it on display, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I walked by that. I thought this was an excellent display of history, right? So it takes you back, looking at all the tape decks and the double tape decks, this and everything else. So yeah,
I had all of the 1980s and maybe 2 of the 1990s stack.
yeah. No, it was. I did walk by this. It was pretty cool to look at.
Yeah,
for sure.
This was really neat. And then Sony had a demo of the new Bravia 7 projector, and they were comparing it to the XW5000. So it's kind of similar to what they did last year when they came out with the new Projector 8 and Projector 9, how they compared it to the previous model. They were just showing dynamic tone mapping, and then they had there were a couple of different scenes in Thunderbolts. And yeah, it was a pretty big difference. So just like the 8 and 9 compared to the 6000, it was a pretty big difference. It was also a lot sharper. Even though they're using the same lens, having the XR chip in the projector, it was a lot sharper than the 5000, which was surprising.
That in itself is surprising to me, that they're showing the capabilities of their new projector versus maybe one of their old projectors versus versus doing it against competition, right? So last year when I heard that they did this, I was kind of surprised that they actually compared versus their own projection systems. So kudos to them for doing it.
Definitely. Where they partner with Leon Studio Frame, and you can add a frame around the TV too. So it's not a frame TV per se. You can add this to a Bravia 8 or a Bravia 9, and then just add the frame around it so it blends in to your living
A
room.
lot of the complaints about the frame TV is that it's great for art, right? It looks fantastic for art, but when it came to watching movies and stuff on it,
You mean using it as a TV?
Yeah, using it as a TV, it people complain that it wasn't as dynamic as other other sets that they had for
but
sure.
the things that make it look really good as art probably going to make it suck as a TV and vice versa.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's true. It's a double-edged sword.
I don't have any objective knowledge on that. That's just a guess.
I have 2 frame TVs myself, so I mean, and I hung one in my wife's office, so it's, I mean, fantastic for art for sure. If you're looking for OLED quality, you're not getting it, but it's definitely good.
And then this was their new CLED that they had on display, which was really awesome. Ryan, did you get a chance to check this out?
Nope. Because I'm a loser. I don't get to do anything.
So I was able to walk through this one. I think they partnered up with Wisdom, correct?
They did, yeah.
Yeah. So I was able to walk through this one, and I mean, they were someone else was shooting B-roll and stuff in here, so we weren't able to really do the demo. But I did see, how they were doing the quad sections on the wall and stuff like that. It was impressive. It was an impressive install. I mean, you want to talk about hiding speakers? The Wisdom, they had LCRs underneath of this that you couldn't even see.
Yeah, because I took B-rolls of the front stage and didn't even see the speakers there. Then Don was like, "Oh, they got speakers." I'm like, "Where?" Like right there. I'm like, "Oh wow, okay."
Yeah, and supposedly the line array speakers, did a really good job, because when you put the speakers underneath of the display, it's always the complaint that it's not coming from where the actual picture is. But from my understanding is because it's the line array with the Wisdom, it did a really good job of dispersing the sound evenly throughout. So I didn't get a chance to hear it. I don't know if you did or not, Eric.
I heard it, but I was kind of standing back in the room, so I wasn't in like a sweet spot or anything. So it sounded good, but I was really impressed by the display. This isn't the first time Sony has had their CLED display, on display at CEDIA, but this was a completely different one, according to the Sony rep that I spoke to. I guess they added a glossy, finish to it, and this was a complete different design that they've used.
No, I have to agree. Definitely did look good.
And then over to MadVR. Maybe I'll let Ryan talk about this.
No.
Did you get to visit
Did you get to visit the background booth, Ryan?
I may or may not have gotten to visit this one. But I'm not going to talk about this because I want this to be unbiased.
Okay, that makes sense.
Did you at least show up to work?
So the MadVR booth, they had new features with the new Envies. They didn't have the Envy Extreme Mark III on display, but they did have the Core Mark II on display. And one of the new features was dynamic subtitle overlay. I don't have a picture of that though. And that's a really neat feature because it cuts off the subtitles on the black bars and puts them into, and Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but it cuts off the subtitles from the black bars and puts them into the picture area.
That's correct.
And then to keep them legible, they add a semi-transparent background to it, so to kind of have them pop a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
which can be dialed, up or down, right? Which was really impressive, right? If you want more of a transparent background, or I think it got down to, what's it, like 5% or 10%, you could dial it all the way back to where it's like 90% transparent or something like that. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yep. That was actually extremely impressive because it literally was, you could change the size, you could change the contrast.
So Envy, for the things where it's adjusting brightness and the color, is tracking the APL of each individual frame and scene that have the subtitles. And then it's adjusting the subtitle brightness based on the APL of a given frame or scene. So it is actively adjusting these things at a per frame/scene basis. So if you have a really bright frame or scene, it's going to make them much brighter. If you have a really dim frame or scene, it's going to make them much dimmer. And the reason this is done is to make them less distracting, to make them less immersion breaking. And the other reason that this becomes a problem is because we're seeing more and more dynamic processes added into displays. A great example of this is from two manufacturers, Dynablack from Barco, or yeah, there's a picture of it. You can see it from Don in the small above my head. So Dynablack from Barco or Vader from Christie. Those are two dynamic dimming algorithms. They're more complicated than that, but if you put something like subtitles on screen, typically the subtitles are the brightest thing on the screen. And that creates problems with any dynamic processes that's running because it's going to dim based on what it sees on the screen. And most algorithms, including Envy, are not able to differentiate between subtitles and the rest of the scene. So being able to dim them to match the APL of a given frame or scene is hugely beneficial. And the other thing they're able to do, aside from dimming, is Envy generates a histogram per frame. So it's able to determine what the color intensity, what colors, luminance, volume, all of that is going on a given frame. So when we're talking about color matching, Envy is actually using the histogram to determine what colors it needs to inject into the subtitles to have them match the overall, I'll call it, palette of a given frame or scene, so that again they become less immersion breaking. Now you have full control over how all of these things are being done. So the brightness you can turn on or off. There's no way to tell it, hey, I want to dim by X, Y, or Z. But the color, you're able to define a static color or do what's called adaptive, and it's able to determine it for you. And then you're able to adjust the black kind of box that sits behind it from, I think, 0, or you can dim it up to 90%, I think is what the values are. And then the last thing you can do is you can actually shrink the overall subtitle size by up to 30%. So the subtitle size, when you're on enormous screens, I don't need subtitles the size of a small child. Like I don't need them that large.
That's one thing I commented too, because I was like, yeah, if you're on a 55-inch TV, you kind of want to be a minimum size.
Yeah, because I mean, look, this is the original. Yeah. If you can zoom in, that's the original, right? Compared to what I just showed. So that takes, and I'm on an angle here, but it takes up the whole entire TV. It takes you out of the movie, you know, and so it actually takes you out of the movie, you know, compared to, let me see if I can back this up just a little bit here. There we go. So compared to this, you know, it's much smaller. It's, you know, the color of the content. So it's not taking you out of the movie, right? When you see a big subtitle. And I appreciate the fact that, you know, someone is paying attention to subtitles because, I mean, more and more we are getting, you know, we're watching movies from overseas, from different languages, you know, from, you know, anime and stuff like that. So I appreciate the fact that, you know, this is something that MadVR is paying attention to.
Definitely. And if you have an LCD screen, like what Ryan was saying, that's one of the downsides with LCD screens is when you have subtitles, all you get is, you know, you see blooming like crazy on the bottom of the screen. The fact that it's now in the, you know, in the picture, that will help with that drastically.
Yeah, definitely. Let's not forget about what, you know, I think is the most important part about this upgrade is the latency.
Yes.
Which we have, you know, I think we have a picture of Spider-Man game here, right?
Or something that is part of the home theater video chain, right? It's good that they're putting that into consideration, especially for people who are gamers and happen to have
gamers will voice their opinion louder.
Gamers,
you ain't hiding anything.
Will scream loud,
you know. And yes,
yeah.
If I have a MadVR, I don't want to have to go disconnect it or bypass it just to play.
It will have to be 100. And yeah, like I said, I couldn't really tell, you know, just because it's like you got to actually be doing it to perceive it. But yeah, there's no reason why it's not. But you just couldn't tell from a video.
Yeah, but I think it's good to see. It's good to see that companies are putting some of these things into perspective, right?
Same thing. They're paying attention.
Yeah, they're paying attention, right? And it's probably a small subset of owners that even would have requested loudly,
Yeah,
but
the
they're doing it.
Barco video wall. You
It's
can
Larger than you think.
Oh, okay, that's good. So
Sure.
and with the HDMI 2.1 specs too, right? It helps. That
Well, I mean, look at the frame rate. It shows the frame rate on there, so they're
240,
getting
that's crazy.
240
I
frames
tried
per
it, and
second.
it was really. I tried it for Spider-Man. It's really good, and that's a game I've played before too, right? So I think it was really impressive that,
So Envy in
you
this
have that.
application is able to take in a HDMI 2.1 signal VRR
Yep.
and output an HDMI 2.1 signal VRR. And we're working on adding up. For anybody that doesn't know, I also contract work for MadVR. I'm just going to be fully transparent about that, just so people know. So we can. That's why I say we. So we're able to bring things in. We're able to bring things out. The 240 Envy is actually able to apply frame doubling, which lowers your time between frames, which can actually help with things like VRR. So there's a lot of benefits in what Envy is doing, and you're still getting a lot of Envy's processing, even though you have this low latency. So it's not just, hey, we're turning everything off. You get low latency so you can game through us without unplugging us and going around us. You can still get aspect ratio control, the HDR tone mapping, sharpening algorithms, frame rate handling, all that kind of stuff within Envy while gaming. So it's just a net positive, if you will. It's still not a zero latency because there is obviously processing and you're coming into another device and going out. But the things that it adds and the processing that it adds, we think is beneficial.
Cool.
No, I got to play with the game. It wasn't a Spider-Man demo, but I mean, I was jumping around
Astro?
Astro. Yeah.
Astro?
So
Yeah.
it was when you hit the button, it was jumping. So it was correlating right to the screen. I will say that, I'm a first person shooter gamer when I do play, so that's where you do see a lot of lag and latency and stuff like that. So they didn't have any of that on display, but I mean, from what I did see, it definitely didn't show latency, when I was just playing the Astro game for sure.
Yeah, the biggest thing I saw with Spider-Man was the tone mapping with the sunsets, the sky. It looked really nice.
Oh yeah. That looked amazing all the time. Yeah, for sure.
And then now the sound rooms. So this one was the Paragons of Sound, and this was Sound Room 11. So it had a digital projection, eVision, RGB laser. It was a single chip RGB though, if I'm not mistaken. It had that's correct. Okay, it had a 16:9 Seymour screen, 120 inch, and then a Lumagen processor, and then for the speakers, they were next level acoustics, and it was a 9.4.6 Dolby Atmos configuration with 19 speakers total. It had the Cinema 8 series for the surrounds and rear channels, the CI IC44AS models for the height duties, and then 4 high velocity 15-inch subwoofers. And the funny thing about this room is when everybody was talking and when we were sitting in here and they had all the press and everything, everybody thought the low end was so clean, and it was, I guess, a couple people sat in a couple different seats. Everybody thought that they were actually doing waveforming because the processor was a Trinnov in this room. Funny thing is, on one of the threads on AVS forum, Adam Peltz calibrated this room, and he actually responded to a thread the other day and said there actually wasn't waveforming set up in this room. It was just, a standard calibration. But that's how good it sounded and how consistent it was from seat to seat.
Adam doesn't know how to calibrate. I'm kidding, Adam. I love you.
And the reason he didn't do waveforming is he just thought that it sounded better without it for this room in particular.
Yeah,
What did you guys think of this room?
This room was, I mean, if you're looking to reach reference without any hiccups, the amount of SPL that was coming out of these speakers, I mean, I think they're, 95, 96, dB sensitive. They were, it was really good, and what surprised me even more was that they were using 415s in the room.
The
Right,
output they were
so-
getting from those were insane.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I loved everything about this room. It you know, if you're a person that wants to listen at high volumes, by all means, these are speakers for you, because they really performed, and I didn't hear everything blended well together. I didn't hear any distortion coming from them at the loud volumes they were playing. I mean, it seemed like you could just give them more, and notably they were using the speaker power amplifiers in here, the new speaker power amplifiers, which are just gorgeous in themselves if you haven't seen them.
Yeah, I think that's probably what impressed me most was the amplifiers used to run them, and the speakers just sounded like if you were to put a price point on them, you would probably put a higher price point on the speakers they used in the room. So it was kind of impressive just to see that, and yeah, that thing can go loud if you have to.
Did you say what screen it was? I know it's Seymour.
Yeah, that's the one with the masking, right? To the variable.
So it's 4-way masking, but what's the actual material?
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't AT, because they put the center channel underneath the speaker.
Yeah, it must have been
underneath of the screen.
Okay, I know which one it is then.
Yeah, for the price, this room sounded really good.
Yeah, I think they said it was like 180, 170,000 for the whole entire setup.
It's the Enlighter Neo reference.
And that was everything, right? That's like you're talking projector, screen, subwoofers.
Oh, is it? No.
Right.
What did you guys think of the video?
So I've never experienced digital projection before, and I thought it did a good job. You know,
Yeah.
I thought that, you know, the colors were saturated good. It portrayed a good 4K image. So I was impressed with the projector actually also.
I didn't
There
get
was
to see this
some
one.
because it was a single chip DLP. There was a little bit of
Which
RB
projector
there.
was it? Yeah, this is the one that I think someone had said something there.
This is a single chip, so it's
susceptible.
potentially got some rainbow.
Yeah. If you're really susceptible to that, but that's just the thing.
And that's inherent of that type of projector. This is not picking on DP. This is just
exactly
how it is. Yeah. Some people are more sensitive to others than others to that particular thing. So not picking on them. But I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I didn't get a chance to make it down to this room.
It's one of those rooms where it's like, man, you know, if you didn't know, you would definitely not know this is a tenth of the price of the room next to it. You know, so that's where it's like, wow.
And then Don, you have a picture of the
speaker power amp. Yeah, the new series that they're coming out with. So this was an 8-channel amp. I believe it was a 400 watts per channel. I believe somewhere around there.
Yeah. And I believe the standard color on this is right, like black. I think they specially anodized this one for the show, I believe.
Yeah.
Talk to them about it. But yeah, the red's always a cool color that pops.
Yeah, I thought it beautiful. I mean, and it's got all the different kind of connections for you, you know, XLR, coax. So it's, you know, everything that you need there. But I was impressed by it for sure, you know, running those next level speakers.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was like I said, I was the SPL that came out of this room was loud, you know. So not that it wasn't enjoyable, but it was loud with
plenty of power,
with no distortion. Yeah, it was good.
And then moving on from there. So this one was Sound Room 7. And this was basically what you could do, not necessarily what you should do given the price tag, but what you could do.
If you won the lottery.
Yes. To get close to perfection. And so this room had a Christie Eclipse G3 projector, which was, I saw a couple of videos of Todd Anderson at AV Nirvana. He was there setting it up. and seeing the forklift lifted up onto the pallet and setting up the cooling station and everything was pretty crazy.
No, this room's insane, is what it is. You know, I mean, those of you that are watching this, I just want you to realize that these Ascendo speakers, the Halos that are up there, they're new speaker. I want you to realize that those are 8-inch drivers. So there's 6 8-inch drivers in those speakers. So they may look small on the wall there, but
Well, the subs are 18s.
yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Compare them to the 18-inch subs next to it, and you'll see exactly, you know, the sheer size of those. This room was insane for sure.
So this was running a 14.18.10 with Storm Audio's Elite 32. I believe this was
digital.
And then Ascendo had their Halo speakers.
Yep, 16 18s, and then the 2 64s.
2 64s. And then the screen, I don't think I have a picture of the screen, but the screen was a Seymour Excellence retractable screen.
Yeah,
which was the first
and Litho Neo, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, with the first time ever retractable masking. That's important on a retractable screen.
It was
right?
pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
so
cool.
that was very impressive, you know, to be able to do masking on a retractable screen. So
And the other important part is people always assume that when you have this amount of bass in a room with a retractable screen, it's going to move. It didn't move.
No, it didn't.
Oh boy.
How were those seats? Because I was in the front and my shirt and my jeans were just flapping away.
Yeah, so I moved to the front seat, so I let those guys stay back there. I wasn't going to take the damage for sure.
Yeah. I mean, those are some big speakers.
So we actually had to build the room around those subs. The subs had to go in first, and then the sound room had to get built around them because they wouldn't fit through the doorway.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That makes sense.
And how many nits were we pushing on the projector, Ryan?
I think it was 300.
300?
So when that projector was on, it went black.
Yeah.
I mean, it went black. You couldn't see nothing in that room, and the projector was on, which was super impressive.
Well, yeah, and they did mention it specifically that it wasn't like, oh, we're turning because some projectors will take the bulb, right, and they'll basically like turn it off or turn it to a dark mode, right? Like, oh, we're basically turning the bulb, which is not a bulb, you know, like
the laser.
They'll turn the laser off, right, or to a minimal power level to keep it still on, right, to where there's no delay in going back to a scene where they're like, no, this laser is still running full power in the black scene or during.
So we talked about how the DP is a single chip. This is a 6 chip.
Yeah.
Which is how it's, I don't know the specifics for how the Eclipse is able to do it, but the 6 chip design is what allows it to do what it does.
So 98% of Rec 2020 delivers true HDR up to 200 times more than the contrast. I mean, 20 million to 1 contrast ratio.
Yeah, but that price, man.
And here's another picture that you can't even.
That's a 6-foot table.
How large this is.
It is the Dolby Vision projector, though.
It's wide.
So the Griffin, or not the Griffin, the Eclipse to me represents the end of projection as it is right now. Like, it takes out all the stops. It's as far as we've been able to go that I'm aware of with projection. It's what Dolby Vision uses. It is it. I mean, this projector is capable of 30,000 plus lumens at a multi-million to 1 native contrast. That's not dynamic. That's native contrast. And it is an amazing projector. Now, I did hear some talk in that room. They're like, oh, well, it's not truly black. Well, you got to remember, any type of light pollution that gets into these rooms
corrupts any blackness.
Or TVs is just harder to notice. So if you have light coming under the doors, if you had a white shirt on, if you're smiling and your white teeth are reflecting, all of those dumb things are affecting the native contrast numbers. And people
and we all had our cameras out too, right?
So
Guilty as charged.
just important to remember that what it's capable of is not necessarily what you're going to see in this room. And this is a matter of fact for how every or the majority of projector manufacturers measure. They're going to measure in the best conditions for whatever they're trying to obtain. So if you put this thing in a full black room with no reflections, you're going to be able to do what it's capable of, but nothing's perfect. So you're always limited to what the least common denominator is. And typically that's the room. Same for audio, same for video. Great.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely impressive for sure. I was glad I got to see this projector.
It was quiet with the cooler being in a separate.
Yeah, well, I was totally outside.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. It's like, oh man, that's cool.
I mean, just the sheer connections alone. I don't know if you got a picture of like the cooling connections or not, Eric.
I don't.
So you can run that chiller up to 100 feet away from the projector.
Wow.
That's some distance. Man. Yep.
Now the question is, does the chiller come with the projector or?
Yes.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah.
At 400K, it would suck if you have to pay for the shit.
Well, there's no it's not like a confirmed price thing, but yeah, I would I'm sure it's roughly around that for sure. Toned down, I'm sure, for the size of the screen that we had, and whenever we were watching the ballerina as a demo, man, it was like, oh god, my eyeballs. They're hurting.
This is your antifreeze right here. I mean, it's crazy how you connect this thing for like the whole separate chiller.
So most of the Christies and a lot of the commercial projectors use liquid cooling. This one just has a chiller attached to it.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy for sure. But yeah, I mean, that's a 6-foot table, so you could see the sheer size of how much of that table it's taking up. It was impressive for sure. With a price tag of $400,000.
Represents the end.
Yeah.
You do get trickle down though, which is nice.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, it was a $1 million room plus for sure.
And speaking of Christie, I don't have any pictures of this room for some reason. I must have just not taken any pictures. But one of the sound rooms, I don't know the number, so going to talk about the Alcon's room. That had the Vader.
I think it was 10. And yes, it had VDR.
It had
Vader.
It had VDR. Vader.
Vader.
Vader did not suck.
No, it did not.
No,
pretty
it
awesome.
did not. It was good, man. That was really
For
impressive.
look, I know that's a commercial projector right now, and they're talking about trying to bring that to market for residential. But look at the size of this projector compared to the other one, right? This is manageable. You don't need a whole separate projection room for the other one, right?
To be fair, the M4K is still not quiet. That M4K 25 is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of between 45 and 50 dB.
Ooh.
They're not quiet. So you would want them out of the room or putting them in a hush box still. But it is more manageable for size. Absolutely.
Yeah, you could have less than 4 people pick that
Now
one.
Or a forklift.
A 25 that Vader was running on in Alcon's room is about half the size of the Eclipse. So it's effectively a commercial version of the Griffin. Smaller light output. I think the 2 Griffins they have out now are the 35 and the 50. But it's the 4K 25, which is a commercial projector, and it had Vader because it's going to commercial first. Vader was a commercial application. Do you guys know why Vader was introduced or is being introduced?
So if you could explain Vader, what is Vader?
So Vader is a variable dynamic range. I don't know how it's working. I need to talk to Christie about what it's doing. It is not behaving, as far as I understand, how most dynamic dimming systems are working. But the reason it's being introduced to commercial is not for contrast. It's not for any, fidelic benefit of the picture. It's cost savings. Because if you're able to run the lasers at lower output, which is what Vader allows you to do for the black areas, you save on power. And when you have many projectors, like say 20 of them running day in and day out, and you're able to cut your laser power down from 100 on a lot of the scenes in a given movie or piece of content down to 20, you're not only saving on your power, but you're also saving on the life of whatever equipment that you're running that on. So the commercial cinemas do not care about the fidelity of the image. They are all about the power savings. Now, when you flip over to residential's like power, money, don't care. Bring on the contrast, baby. So
bring on the $500 electricity bill.
yeah, this thing is
you're not watching your home theater.
From what I heard,
8 hours a day.
Dwayne Davis calibrated it. They got it, I think it was 55,000 to 1, and it was originally at 5,000 to 1. And I think, did you guys see the demo before the show opened that they were doing? Okay, so I saw it, and this demo they had, did you guys see the power meter on screen?
No, we didn't show.
You didn't see the power meter.
Show that either.
All right. So there's a power meter that they show with Vader. And the power meter is off to the right on the screen. It's in like the black bar. And it shows the laser power and the dynamic contrast level. And it's jumping up and down like this. So you can, the demo that I saw was Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yeah, that was the demo. Yeah.
It was the later in the movie. It wasn't the opening scene. It was the later part of it where the kids are going at it. And the power level and the native contrast was bouncing all over the place. And when they did it for us, because they weren't fully done yet, I could still see the black bars because they hadn't zoomed the projector fully yet. So I could see the black bars changing. Like you could see the black floor changing. But in the content, you couldn't see any change. So they were like normally you're seeing things go up and down. And this was happening mid-scene. Normally you'd be seeing pumping, you'd be seeing all kinds of different stuff. And in this, somehow they're able to keep, from my understanding, the colors the same luminance, but the black floor is the thing that's dropping. So it's different than how everything else is operating. When I saw this at CinemaCon, they put up 2 squares of color. I think it was like red. So you had red and red. One project, and these were on 2 totally separate systems on 2 totally separate screens. One projector had Vader, one didn't. And the colors looked identical. Then they turned Vader on, and the black floor dropped, and this one didn't, and the colors stayed exactly the same. And you couldn't see any visual difference. So even if it dropped, there was no visual perceptive indication that the color had deteriorated at all, but your black floor went and came.
So is this because I've heard, I don't know, but is this, I thought I heard that Christie was coming out with, it's called light steering, right? So
that's Barco.
Okay.
Barco's doing light steering.
Light
and
steering.
That is that's a commercial product, and it is on its own SKU. It has its own projector. So what they're doing is they're steering more light to the spectral highlights. Christie is doing this differently, and they're doing it with the entire image. And their stuff is usable on all of the current projectors back to a certain time period.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
it's a software upgrade.
Well, in the demo, in the beginning of the demo, you know, it's like archaeologists, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're sweeping for stuff, and I was like, look, they're switching back and forth. I'm like, just don't switch it, leave it, leave it on. It looks phenomenal. You know, I'll be honest with you, I like the Eclipse, but if I had the choice between the two, I probably would take this projector over the Eclipse.
Cost for performance.
Yep.
Yeah. The Eclipse represents the end. You got to pay for the end, right? It's exponentially more expensive. But what you get with Vader is pretty darn cool.
Yeah,
and
it was awesome.
You thought when I know what clip you're talking about. That's a movie clip they do. It's like a dedicated footage that the industry uses. And you thought it looked really good. You're like, is Vader on? And then they turn Vader on. You go, oh, well, definitely looks better now.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it was pretty remarkable. I had never seen it on content before, so that was super cool.
And this is going to be available to Griffin owners too, right?
Supposedly it'll be available to people on the Griffin and the M4K. Now, I don't know how far back, like what versions of the Griffin and M4K, because there have been different versions. So I don't know if it's all of them. I don't know if it's some. I don't know. But it will be available supposedly on them, is what they were saying.
That's awesome.
It's got to come to commercial first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, late this year, early next year is when they're anticipating it hitting commercial. I think. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, they said January, February. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
No, look,
was awesome.
I'm going to tell you a story, and this will tell you how much I like this projector. I'm done with the demo. I walk outside. The first person I see is Matthew Pose. Am I talking about audio to Matthew Pose? No. Matthew, what projector is that? Right? And he was, and I feel bad because the audio was fantastic too, but I was so impressed with this projector that I just circumvented all the audio and asked him, like, hey, I'm super impressed with this projector. So it was
super cool.
Yeah. So sorry, Matthew.
And then, yeah, I'll just run through this. Did you guys walk around the Origin Acoustics booth at all, or not really?
I did not see this one.
This one at all.
Okay, so this was another booth where, they were kind of focused just on lifestyle and, the best way to hide the speakers but still sound good. They had some awesome products. And then
Magnetar, the UHD player you could use as a weapon.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
The tank. Yep.
That is the play everything solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm looking
I'm
forward to
saying everything.
Mine is currently relegated to Spears and Munsell duty. The disc is in it and it never leaves.
So I'm interested. I have I spoke to them. I have the Panasonic 9000. I'm definitely interested to bring this in.
It's a cool product.
And put it in my rack. I like the fact that I can play an ISO or a BDMV directly to it from a NAS if I want to. There's some other features that I won't talk about, but let's just put it this way. It'll play everything. Once you get it set right, it'll play everything. HD, DVD, SACD. Yeah, it'll play everything.
And I was talking to one of the engineers, actually, and they were talking about one of the biggest complaints with the current generation of Magnetar is how loud some of the units spin a disc. So that's been a topic on AVS forum that I've seen. The one that I have is pretty quiet, but depending on the disc, sometimes I guess they spin up pretty loud. And the engineer said that, they acknowledged that that was an issue. It was just depending on the disc. Some discs have those have stickers on it, so it spins a little bit quicker. If you're going with a different region, sometimes it needs to spin it a little bit faster to read that disc as well. So they said they have a team working on this to kind of fix it in the new model, and I'm actually curious to see if that has been addressed or not.
Yeah, I look forward to getting one in and trying it.
Yeah, so they have the 8000,
sure.
the 9000. TCL was there. They had their TVs.
They had a big booth.
They did.
Yeah.
They had a really big booth.
Super impressive, man. Super impressive for the size of those TVs.
Yeah. And the price point to get a 98-inch now it's like $1,500 now if you want to get that size.
The QM6, I think, for 98.
Yeah.
That's the Costco one that Paul was talking about earlier.
It's insane. It's just like, what?
And I saw it in person there, the QM6. It looks phenomenal. There's two versions above that. The 7 and the 8.
Yeah, the 8K looked great, and there's going to be a 9K too, which looked pretty awesome. Because the 8K was on the other side, so it was playing the same demo clip, so I was actually able to kind of see. And I know I'm not comparing it on the demo on the showroom floor or anything, but it looked pretty awesome.
They're definitely taking it to Sony and LG for sure.
Yeah.
It's a like Ryan said earlier about competition. You know, I'm glad that they're pushing it that way.
And they're coming out with some wireless speakers as well they're kind of like the Bravia, the quad system. So they work off the processor on the TV to give you surround sound, which was pretty neat.
That's cool.
So yeah, that's how big the booth was. And then the last picture I have is sound room, and this is the one with the Crick speaker. So I want to say sound room 12.
I think this was 12.
12, yes. Says Trinnov, Kaleidescape, Barco, Seymour Excellence, Epson. I don't know why it says Barco and Epson in there though. I believe it was the Epson projector.
It was
right?
the Epson, the QL, QL 7000 if I'm not mistaken. And this is one that they were playing. They might have had a Kaleidescape in there, but when I went in there, they had a Zedu playing demo clips.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Yeah,
is
it
really
doesn't
crazy.
it doesn't mention Kaleidescape, but yeah, no, they had the same setup because I took a picture of it. And if you haven't seen this Prey demo, gosh, man, with that 7000, it was incredible.
It looked good.
Yeah,
And the speaker sounded good too. Like they had their MX30i. They sounded good. If you played them a little bit loud, you can hear a little bit of compression, but nothing. They sounded really good.
Yeah, I was impressed by the room too, and finally got to see the Cricks wall. Not bad. They look really good, and you know it's good to see them in America. You know, one more speaker that we can all look forward to, and I think it sounded also good. It was a little bit loud for me, a little bit, but I think that's all boils down to just either the way it was calibrated. You know, I don't think it's the speaker itself. You know, but yeah, it was good to experience it. A Crick speaker finally.
Yeah. I've always seen everybody talk about them, but I've never heard them, so I finally got the chance to hear them.
Yeah.
It definitely was loud. I think they were playing it hot, right? So, you know, to try to demo what it was. To me, it was a little bright, you know, for my take, but overall, I mean, they were definitely pushing those speakers in that demo for sure.
And then the last pictures that I have was just our buddy James at Chords. I walked by his booth and he was actually showing me an HDMI cable lifting it. This thing was like a 10-pound box. And you were just able to lift it, and it was actually pretty awesome. He's like,
those cable boxes are more than 10 pounds. They're stupid heavy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he's like, go home. He's like, go home, try this with any spare HDMI cable. I bet you they rip. I tried it with an Amazon box that weighed about 6 pounds. I won't say the brand, but it definitely ripped.
Well, I can tell you that from building my theater recently, I ran SmurfTube, and I thought it was going to be easy pulling those cables through an empty SmurfTube. It still causes a ton of resistance in there. You have to use cable lube and everything else for it was. I mean, I was pulling with all my might for some of these, so I understand, you know, that, and I'm pretty sure I damaged one of my HDMI cables pulling it through because. So that's definitely something that's useful for sure.
It just might be a JVC cable. Maybe that's why you're not seeing the sharpness you want.
No, I ran like 4 different HDMI cables. So, but yeah. Before we go to wrap up here, I just wanted to talk about that soundbar that we.
This soundbar moved you.
It did.
It did. He's ordered one.
Well,
sleep with, I think.
not only the soundbar, but the room itself, the Lyngdorf Steinway room. So there was what was so impressive about this room was there was 0 room treatments, right? So and the quality of sound that you got out of the room was fantastic. So this was the sound bar that was in the room, and it was also underneath of that Barco wall that we talked about earlier. So there was literally like 20 people standing in front of this sound bar during the demo, and they played Maverick, and it was a scene where the jet flies over top of you. And all 20 people turned around and looked up and looked for rear speakers that were not there in this demo from this soundbar. It was amazing to look at. It was amazing to watch people turn around and just the immersiveness that you got from this soundbar. So, Ike, you heard it too, right? So, what did you think?
It was, I mean, I don't know what type of technology they used there, but it was impressive. I think I actually have that on camera because I was recording from the back when everyone literally looked up, and I was also looking up, even though we knew we were looking at a sound bar, but we thought probably they were just trying to play games. But yes, it was impressive. The price point was wow. Okay, was it 40 grand or
40 grand for that?
Yeah.
But
So yeah, you're paying for something, and and they look good, true to Steinway, classic, good looking. But yes, whatever they did there was really impressive. No, I don't think you would find just about any soundbar out there within the budget friendly zone. But if you have 3 or 4 of those in your room, that would be crazy.
3 or 4. Paul, you saw it too, right?
Yeah. I was way off to the side on this, so I didn't look up, I guess. But yeah, it did definitely, it was immersive more so than any sound bar I've ever heard as far as, dynamic range and everything. And I think the presenter was kind of saying that they were like, oh, it was kind of opposite of their normal mantra of, hey, they want mostly aesthetic, and people were like, oh, we want bigger. And then I don't even know what size those bass drivers are on that, because they got to have some sub DSP going on in there with those.
I think they look like it could be 8s. I think somewhere around.
That's
8s.
what they look like, but I didn't know if they were.
I couldn't speak to it, but yeah.
But they were, it had a large sound, and it did sound good. I did not know it was 40 grand. That would have made me like it a lot less.
So
40
Eric,
grand.
Eric, you weren't able to see this room, right?
That was
I didn't.
real
make it
gold
to that
around
room.
those rings right there for that price.
Ryan, you weren't able to take in on this room either.
Nope.
So this is what impressed me, right? This is if you could see the sheer height of this room, right? This is well above, standing height. The room itself, I think the ceilings were probably 25 to 30 feet.
Yeah.
All right. And, I guess it could be a benefit, for the room to be this large, because, when you have open space, it kind of acts as an absorber. But, without seeing any room treatments in this room. So what they use line arrays up front, right? So for the LCRs, and then they had they just had like on a stand the speakers around the room, around the going all around the room. It had 4 I believe it was a 9.4.4 basically, right? So and this is how they did their Atmos speakers. And I think the total for this whole entire room, just for audio, not video, because he did have a Barco in here, but for the total room was like $128,000,
including the amplifier,
included amplifiers, processor, and speakers.
Yeah, I think it was less than that, but yeah, it was all audio, all amplification, processing, and speakers and subs. And I was like, damn. That's why it's like, wait, I'm gonna get this or a $40,000 sound bar. And now I'm gonna take this over here.
So I was super impressed with this room. I will say that I got spatial audio in this room, watching the demos, which I didn't get in some of the other rooms, but I did have stuff panning around me at ear level. And it was just impressive, not to have any room treatments. And granted, I'm not taking away from any other rooms there, because it is hard in the type of rooms that that they're dealing with. Like we talked about, they are cardboard boxes, right? So, and they're doing their very best, but the way Room Perfect, was able to tune this room and get spatial audio without any treatments whatsoever was really impressive to me.
Yeah, I think for just the fact that it did not have any room treatment, that impressed me more than anything else, man. Because I was like, I wasn't sure when we kind of stepped in there, but after the demos, I was like, wow, can you imagine if you have all of that in the, quote unquote treated room, how impressive it would be. And then when we found out the price point, it's like, damn, okay, that, that is really impressive. That I think that was it in terms of just not having room treatment. Kind of, that was my pinnacle of just being impressed by whatever they did in there.
Yeah, overall, I thought the show was great. Had a great time. I haven't seen attendance numbers this year, but it seemed a little less than previous years, which I actually like better because the lines for the demos weren't as long.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. But before we go any further, a quick word from our sponsors, Martin Logan.
Martin Logan delivers high-performance audio that fuses cutting-edge technology with sleek, elegant design. Engineered for audiophiles and home theater enthusiasts alike, Martin Logan products bring every sound to life with incredible clarity and power. Discover more at martinlogan.com and visit a dealer near you. Martin Logan, bringing you truth in sound since 1983.
Welcome back. We're just wrapping up here. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Eric. I think you were just talking about how attendance you think was down, but it was actually kind of nice not having to wait in lines.
Exactly. It was really nice not having to wait in lines for the different demos, and you can actually walk the show floor without actually, bumping into people, which was quite nice. So I had a great time. Don, what did you think of the show?
Like I said, it was overwhelming at first, just walking in, just seeing the sheer amount of vendors and booths and everything else. But once you got your bearings, you could start to navigate through there. And man, I really enjoyed it. The thing I liked most, you mentioned the gear, you mentioned, the sound rooms. I really enjoyed talking to people there, right? People came up to us that recognized us and everything else. And Ryan, you touched base on this earlier about, coming for you, it was kind of different. You come to meet friends and people that are in the industry that you don't talk to all the time. So for me, just the people, were really cool. Having people come up to us, recognizing us that, little old us, so really enjoyed the whole entire show. But, that was a highlight for me also, is just, the people itself.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Ike, what was your favorite part?
I mean, it was classic CEDIA, right? Reminded me of setting gears that I probably will never be able to own, right? So I got to just enjoy them while, I got the opportunity to. It's always great, seeing a lot of people. The last time I probably saw them was at the last CEDIA I went to. So I had a great time, and I'm actually looking forward to the next one,
Nice.
So it was good.
And Paul, did you have a great show?
That my first CEDIA, it was overwhelming as far as the amount of vendors, known vendors, new people trying to get into the industry. But yeah, my favorite part was my first time, and I saw so many people I knew. I was just like, wait, what? And, some people, like, I'm not saying Chris Seymour might have bribed me with some whiskey, but that was some good whiskey. So, but yeah, it was just like, it's such a niche of a niche hobby in some aspects, and just meeting many people that you have either met online already or in person. And it was just like, wow, that's pretty wild. It's just all the people and the faces, and as small as the home theater hub is, it's like, I think 6 different times people came up and, like I said, I was at the Kaleidescape booth and I was doing a photo on their biggest video wall, and a group of people came up. Hey, I'm telling you're at the Kaleidescape booth. But it was just a good time with all the people there. But yeah, I mean, it's if you're there doing video and any kind of press, it's, man, I was at the coffee shop at 7 a.m. and walking around, running and gunning, if you would, just constantly from point A to point B. And yeah, man, your feet get tired.
And before we move to Ryan, I just want to say thank you to all the vendors too, right? Because they put in a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work, building these booths, countless hours. Ryan talked about being there a week ahead of time, just building rooms and everything else like that. So I want to say thank you to all the vendors and all the people that worked on putting this together for dealers like myself and whoever else is out there. So look, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, it's always appreciated for sure.
And Ryan, even though you were working, did you have a great show?
Yeah, I always have a great show. I'm glad it's done.
That's a good summary right there. It's like, it was great.
Well, thank you, Don, Ike, Paul, for joining. Ryan, always a pleasure. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening, and we'll see you on the next one.